I gotta stop. These questionable trades are killing me. I take really good trades, and then the questionable ones kill me.
It's a struggle.
I feel you, Philo.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
yeah, it's like I'm so close. You know what I mean? It's like I win so many more trades than I lose, but you know, those losses and the ones today, I like clearly shouldn't have taken them. So, but in the moment,
Philo,
I
let
don't
me ask you
know.
a question. When you get to a trade that is got any kind of question in it, immediately it's off the table. No questions asked. So if you're taking it, it's like, yeah, I'm not sure that you're not taking it. I mean, well, not you. I'm just saying me.
Yeah.
Um, because I
No, I
found
mean that
that
makes
in the
sense.
long run, it pays huge dividends.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I just that seems like maybe the correct way to frame it in my head. It's like because I know that objectively, I know it. I have to figure out how to frame it in my head to where it makes sense in the moment, I guess. Because I've that's been my whole thing this week. It's like my whole thing. I'm like,
You,
hey,
you put
don't
it in
do
your
it.
trade plan. You put it in your trade plan and make sure that's highlighted number one. If there's
Hmm.
ever a question, you don't take a trade, and you say that to yourself before you start the session, so that it's like it's in the forefront. And then as you're trading, you're asking yourself the first question, right? When you go down your list of rules for the trade, is this a questionable trade? It is. Out.
That's what I'm gonna do. I mean, it's crazy. I'd be green like $700 so far this week, and instead I'm red about 130.
Right. So that's why when you find a point that you know that's a struggle point, you make that your number one focus, and that's where you start. And then everything else kind of falls, after. It falls in line after. But, the thing that you need to correct first, that becomes your first focal point.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that's totally the thing, and that seems like a good way to do it because that is actually that's like precisely what I'm struggling with and focusing on right now. So
Yep.
I'm
And
gonna
if you and,
I'm
it,
gonna go
and if
ahead and
you
do
need
that.
help with that, all you need to do is just, be vocal about it. It's like I'm thinking about taking this trade, but it's questionable. I mean, just by you saying that, you'll remind yourself, and if nothing else, somebody else in here will pipe up, say, "Hey, by the way, Philo, remember it's questionable." That'll help you. Eventually, it'll become a habit.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing, Philo.
Yeah, of course. No, yeah, the two questionable trades I took in RTY were in choppy mess. Like I had no business taking them, you know?
But Philo, at least you're recognizing that before the trade, that's the important part is that you know it,
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the important part.
Yeah, and that's the key,
right?
right? It's like if you get into a trade, remember, one of the things Ben and I always talk about is we look for reasons not to get into the trade. So when we look at it, we immediately go, is there any question about this? There is. It's off the table.
Yeah, controlling your emotions is easy to talk about. And even before you trade it, and when you think about it later, you think you're going to do it. And then when you get in it, your your subconscious mind, I think, takes over.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's not really so much like my emotions. I'm not feeling like adrenaline or stress or anything. It's just I have to just be have a really clearer demarcation with myself. I think this is going to help. So hopefully this will do the trick.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean,
got
basically, long
tomorrow.
and short, you get ready to get into a trade. First question is there any question about this trade? No? Perfect. There is. I'm out.
It's like kind of like tunnel vision. At least that's how I describe it. Whenever it happens to me, I get tunnel vision and don't see the big picture anymore.
Yeah, it's different if you miss something and then you look at it after the fact. But if you're in it, I mean, there was like, for example, there was like two or three simplicity trades that we're setting up earlier, and Ben and I were talking about it and saying, what do you think about this? No, this. Okay, it's questionable, right? Out, not taking it.
That reminds me, I'm a Cincinnati Bengal fan, and Jake Browning is red hot right now with the Bengals. he was talking about how when he threw that interception, in his mind, he thought maybe he shouldn't have thrown it, and then he threw it and got intercepted. So you're kind of like a quarterback, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I just wrote this down in my notes for today, and I'm about to augment my trade plan. I mean, like, literally, this is the one thing holding me back from like being quite successful. I've seen it over the last 3 weeks. Like, I take a lot of really good trades, but then I take a couple of questionable ones, and it's just killing all my gains.
I hear you. I'm there with you, man.
Milo, I'm just saying, but what I've kind of done is when I see those questionable trades, I pass on it because I've got to the point where I know if I pass on that one, another one's coming down the road. That might be a little bit better setup. It's tough because of that fear of missing out. But you got to make changes. It's tough. That's why we're all here together. It helps everybody.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I deal with the same thing.
Going back to that quarterback analogy, Philo, you just got to throw it out of bounds and wait for the next pass. You'll make a connection. If you speak up in this group, we'll probably remind you. That's a great way to use the group, is speaking up like that ahead of time. So I ought to try to do that myself.